Happy Wednesday. Happy midweek. Good evening. Greetings to the 12 tribes of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, scattered according to the Bible prophecies into the four corners of the earth and hidden in the nations. Greetings also to those who are of the Gentiles that recognize who the Israelites are and that they are hidden and want to serve the Most High Yah, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob and Israel, and through faith in the Hebrew Messiah are grafted into the scattered nations. Greeting to you all. Blessings upon those that work in the healthcare field and the first responders that are out here every day in all kind of conditions trying to save lives. Blessings upon those that pick up garbage, the menial task of cleaning up garbage to keep our streets, our sidewalks clean and disease free. Blessings upon those that make deliveries for us, oftentimes for tips, for our convenience, or that deliver foods and goods and services to supermarkets across all kinds of weather so that we can walk into a store and get what we want. Blessings upon them. Blessings also upon those trying to help, trying to deliver, trying to rescue, trying to save boys and girls, men and women and children and teenagers and toddlers from perverts who are into child pornography and the victims of child pornography and the victims of pornography and the victims of child molestation and pedophilia and the victims of prostitution and child prostitution and the victims of human trafficking and sex trade operations going on a global basis. Blessings upon the ones trying to help deliver rescues these unfortunate victims, and double curses on the perverts that profit off of these disgusting things. Finally, blessings upon the homeless. 600,000 men, women, and children in the United States right now in January with no roof over their head. Millions around the world in similar or worse conditions. Blessings upon them, for theirs is the kingdom, and blessings upon all the humans that are trying to help them. A few days ago, greetings to the chat. Greetings, brothers and sisters in the chat. Greetings to all of you as well. A few days ago, there was a massive fire in Colorado. They call it the Marshall Fire. I believe they call it the Marshall Fire because it started on a street called Marshall Road. The fire spread so fast and so quickly, and the neighborhood that it was in Colorado was a pretty wealthy suburb of Denver, and place that don't normally have these type of problems. But this fire came through with such force and such speed. Matter of fact, there was one man whose house was actually spared. He was eating breakfast. He had just made toast and he had put his jelly on his toast, and he saw the fire coming from his backyard. And he ran out the house and got in his car and left. And he came back because the fire came right to the edge of his house yard and his deck and stopped. Most High must have been looking out for him. And when he came back to the house, all his neighbors' houses were burned down, but his wasn't. And the toast and the jelly was still there. And this fire just caused massive destruction. And the people were upset because, now, of course, their property was lost, but this was a wealthy suburb and they would be able to replace their property. All these people that live in, when you live in any house, you got to have insurance. But when you live in a very wealthy suburb, these people definitely have insurance covering their houses. Not like what happened in Kentucky a few weeks ago, where that tornado just came through and destroyed the houses of people that are poor that don't have insurance to replace their stuff. And it was just gone. These people have, but they were weeping and wailing because they weren't expecting this. They didn't control it. This lies the point that we're taking today. People today are so into control and profit. You see, brethren, there was a time I mentioned to y'all, it was many years ago now, but there was a time when I myself was chasing a billion. I was trying to get that $1 billion, not a million. I was trying to get the billion. And you got to have a certain mindset to do that. You got to have a certain mindset when you decide profit and money is the most important thing. And I was telling my wife the other day, it's sort of like a train going down a track. You know, when the train is going down a track and it picks up speed and something jumps in front of it, it can't stop. The weight and the speed and the steel, it could try to stop, but it's still going to hit, whatever's in front of it, unless it can see you afar off. If you catch it at the wrong time, it's going to go through. Well, the mindset that it takes to really get wealthy in this Babylon economy that we live, you got to have a mindset like that train track. Once you go down that road, you can't stop. You're going that way. And the way the world operates today, profit is the most important thing, and they just can't turn it off. They're always going to constantly be seeking profit. Again, the Bible shows us that there's nothing new under the sun. What you are seeing here in that regard has been around for thousands of years. There's been people like that all during time. And I like it because I like the way it is in terms of repeating itself, because the word of the Most High shows us and warns us in examples. For example, the deliverance of Yah's chosen people that is soon to come. It's talked about in Isaiah. Isaiah chapter 10. Like a lot of people read Isaiah 11, and Isaiah 11 is obviously powerful, talking about the gathering of Yah's chosen from all the four corners of the earth. But it really starts in chapter 10. And I'm not going to read the whole chapter 10. I'm going to start at verse 20. Isaiah chapter 10, beginning at verse 20. And this is talking about the deliverance of the chosen people. And it's using Egypt as the example, because Egypt, of course, was when we were first delivered as a nation. You see, let's just quickly understand, Abraham was the chosen man of the Most High. Abraham was actually obedient to what his forefathers were obedient to, starting with Adam and going to Noah, and then from Noah to Shem, and then from Shem to Eber, who became the Hebrew, and down to Abraham. And at Abraham's time and the life and times when he was an adult at age 75, he was the only one that was faithful. And the Most High called him from his father's house and blessed him and said, I'm going to make you a great nation. Now, he said, I'm going to make you many nations. And Abraham produced many nations. But there was a great nation of chosen people like he was chosen that was going to come. And that's why he had Ishmael, but Ishmael wasn't the chosen seed. The chosen seed came from his wife, Sarah, not his concubine. Came from his wife, Sarah. Abraham had other concubines with other children, but he gave them all gifts and sent them away from the chosen seed, Isaac. Isaac had twin sons, and of those twins, Jacob was the chosen seed. Then Jacob had 12 sons, and that became the children of Jacob, whose name was changed to Israel, and they became the children of Israel. And eventually they went to Egypt, and they lived there for about a century or two. It's not 400 years like many people think. They lived in Egypt maybe 100 something, 200 years. Then when it was time for them to leave, they left because they were being oppressed, and the Most High had promised their father, Abraham, land that belonged to the Canaanites that he was going to take from the Canaanites and give to Abraham's children, Abraham's seed. And that story, that account, that historical factoid is an example of the deliverance we're about to experience, not only in terms of our deliverance as the chosen seed, but in Egypt's response to our deliverance. Okay, so let's look at this in Isaiah, because you're about to see in this year, in this situation that we're now in, and in places like you saw in Colorado, you're going to see the difference between prophet and prophet. Let's look at Isaiah chapter 10 from let's start at verse 20. Let's start at verse 20, Isaiah chapter 10. And it shall come to pass in that day that the remnant of Israel and such as are escaped of the house of Jacob shall no more again stay upon him that smote them, but they shall stay upon Yahweh, the Holy One of Israel. What do you mean stay? See, right now, because of our oppressive situation, because we have been brought into slavery, because we are the lowest rung, we are used to depending on Massa. For those of you who don't know Massa, Massa's the one that put us in chains. And Massa still exists. He doesn't always have chains on us, although he does have chains on a lot of us still. But we are under his thumb. We are under his oppressive system, a system that is designed not for the Israelite. The system is designed for the heathen to get ahead. It is not designed for the Israelite. They come with this lift yourself up from your bootstrap stuff. They come with this, it's the land of the free, home of the brave, and everybody's dream could come true stuff. But those of us, put it this way, that were brought here in slave ships, we would work from sun up, before sun up to sundown, 6 days a week for several hundred years. And while we were doing that, they would call us lazy. Let me say that again. For several hundred years, our people would work from sun up to sundown for nothing, and they would call us lazy. The other day I was looking at a program. Some Italians was talking about they came over here and built their own stuff and built their churches and built their neighborhoods with their own hands. And I was offended when I saw it, because I thought to myself, y'all came over here on a boat. And that boat you came over on, my people probably built it. And we built it for free. Y'all came over here and there was already streets here. There was already trains running. There was already buildings. And most of them buildings was built on my people's back for free. And then they were talking about, they were talking about the true Hebrews. They didn't call us Hebrew. They talk about black people. They said these people are always looking for a handout. And I thought to myself, y'all came over here with nothing, and you got jobs, and you came on a boat that we built and stood on streets that we built and lived in buildings that we built for free. And rode on trains that we was in chains building for free. And we talking about handout? And that's the example. When we are working for free, we're lazy. And then when we finally start working for profit, we're lazy. And then I realized it's a rigged game to play on our mind. You know what? I'm gonna be saying some things that some of y'all may not like, but I gotta speak the truth. Y'all ready? The hardest working people in the history of the United States of America are the true Hebrews. And you know what else? It's not even close. It's not even close. Let's just say, for example, let's say after we have been between slavery and then after slavery and Jim Crow with carpetbaggers and sharecroppers like my father's mother was, where they was ripping us off, again, having us work for barely nothing and keeping us in debt. Let's say we stopped working, let's say 100 years ago because of that. How long would it take for us to catch up to the 300 years that we worked for free? With the interest that we probably should get. How long would it catch? So I'm saying, but that's not the case. Even right now, the hardest working people in the United States today are the Hebrews. Not talking about, you want to talk about somebody say, well, no, it's the Mexicans. Them Hebrews too. They're from the northern tribes. But I'm talking about Judah. You see Judah out here working 2 jobs. You see Judah out here working 2 jobs. You see Judah out here hustling. Judah is the hardest working tribe, the hardest working family of people that this country ever saw. They can never say that to you, Judah, because then you would understand how much they owe you. So they'll never say that. Okay? You understand what I'm saying? They'll never say that. But Judah is the hardest working group of people that the United States, that Canada, that Britain has ever seen in the history of those countries. Period. We work 2 jobs. We go to school. I remember once I had just graduated college, and I was under the mistaken impression at that time, back in the 80s, man, I got my degree. Now I'm going to make some money, because I already had been working on Wall Street as a clerk. So I said, man, I got my degree. I got my experience. And I was getting the door slammed in my face. And they kept saying, you need to go get a master's degree. You need a master's. That's why we can't get you ahead now. Even though I saw a lot of my Caucasian friends and classmates getting into these jobs with no masters, I thought, okay, I'll do that. Till I went to this PhD seminar in Chicago. And I saw hundreds of brothers and sisters. The PhD seminar was run by one of the big 6 accounting and management consulting firms to encourage Black people to get PhDs. And I saw a sea of Black people. Most of them had their master's degrees, and most of them was in big debt, and none of them was making the money they thought they was going to get from the masters. All of them were getting their master's degree, working full-time jobs, oftentimes raising families, and still couldn't get ahead. And I realized it wasn't just me. I thought it was just me. Not just me. Not just me. Brother was out here working, driving his truck, all kind of hours, all kind of things to keep his wife home with his kids, died of a heart attack. There's no harder working people. The White House, the railroads, the wealth built from old money came on our backs. That's because in the society in which we live, profit becomes more important than anything. Anything. So here it said in verse 20 that there's going to come a point where we're no longer going to be trusting in this society's way. It says, you will no longer stay upon them that smote you. Let's be real about it. That's what we're doing. We're trusting in this system that beat our behind down, enslaved us, crushed us, underpaid us. And look, I'm not going to say it like it's past tense. Shoot, it's happening right now. It's happening right now. And what they do, they prop up a couple of us in the entertainment world to make it seem like the rest of us must be lazy because we're not 6'8" and can't dunk a basketball backwards. We must be lazy. Or we can't dance and sing or win an Oscar. We must be lazy. You understand? It's a set. But the day is coming, it says, that we will no more stay upon them. It says, we're going to trust in the Holy One of Israel. Judah is going to learn to trust in their God. And it's not going to be everybody. The Bible tells us in Ezekiel that he's going to separate from us the rebels. See, unfortunately, there's rebels among Judah. And he said, I'm going to separate the rebels from you as he's delivering us. Who are the rebels? Those are the ones that are either sellouts to their own people, and we see too many of them, or they just lost all care of anybody. They will kill, shoot anybody for $5, like animals. It's real. And just the other day, it was yesterday, 16-year-old sister in a Burger King, 16 years old in a Burger King, going to school, high school, working part-time. Dude reaches through the drive-through with a 9, kills her for just a couple of dollars. That kind of stuff. We got to get purged from brothers like that. You understand? They might be Hebrew in bloodline, but they done messed up. That's it. Or they caught another brother. They call him the supermarket killer here in Virginia. Get on shopping cart killer. Yeah, shopping cart killer. Yeah, he would get sisters on the dating app, kill them, and dispose of their bodies in a shopping cart. Them are the ones that need to be purged, and they're going to be purged. But those of us that are seeking the Most High Yah, those of us that are seeking to be obedient to the Father, those of us that are seeking to bring him glory, he's going to help us. He's going to deliver us. Notice verse 21. Isaiah chapter 10, verse 21. The remnant shall return, even the remnant of Jacob, unto the mighty Most High. For though thy people Israel be as the sand of the sea, yet a remnant of them shall return. The consumption decreed shall overflow with righteousness. What is that? Notice he said there's a lot of us, but only a remnant is going to return. That return means repent, come back to the Father. Only a remnant. See, like I said, the sellouts and the brothers that's just like animals out here, just lost all kind of respect for life. But he said the remnant shall return. And he said the consumption decreed. That's the plagues. The judgments have already begun, y'all. Judgment's already begun. We're going to talk about that in a second. But the judgment's going to get worse. We're in a situation now where you're seeing it. When you see all of these weather-related things that you're seeing, you know, we're going to talk about that, but the judgments have already started. Okay, the judgments have already started, and they're going to get worse. He said that this consumption decreed shall overflow with righteousness. Okay, let's continue. For the Most High Yahweh of hosts shall make a consumption, even determined in the midst of all the land. Therefore, thus saith the Most High Yahweh of hosts, O my people that dwellest in Zion, be not afraid of the Assyrian. He shall smite thee with a rod. He shall lift up his staff against thee after the manner of Egypt. Notice he mentions Egypt. As we were smote in Egypt, that's how we're getting smitten now. Remember what happened? Joseph helped the Egyptians. If it wasn't for the Most High sending Joseph there, they may not even be a nation anymore for what was coming on them. Joseph was sent by the Most High, not just to make a way for his family to come, but to save Egypt. They forgot Joseph, and they started enslaving the Hebrews. They started profiting off the Hebrews because profit was the most important thing. Profit and control. Let's continue. Verse 25. For yet a very little while, and the indignation shall cease, and mine anger in their destruction. And Yahweh of hosts shall stir up a scourge for him according to the slaughter of Midian at the rock of Oreb. And as his rod was upon the sea, so shall he lift it up after the manner of Egypt. We were delivered through the Red Sea. It was a miraculous deliverance that our people could not have done on their own. It's not the point of the water. It's the point that Father did it for us. We could not have done that on our own. And our people were trusting the mighty God of Jacob. And they got delivered. Right? Let's continue. And it shall come to pass in that day that his burden shall be taken off thy shoulder and his yoke from off thy neck, and the yoke shall be destroyed. Why will the yoke be destroyed? Why is the burden going to be taken from us? Notice what it says. Because of the anointing. That's the latter rain spirit that we're seeking for now. Those of us that are wise, seeking for the latter rain spirit. And that's going to cause us to be delivered. Praise the Most High. Now, let's look closely at Egypt. Because Egypt shows us what's going on right now. When you look at Egypt, the story of Egypt and the story of the Hebrews, you are actually seeing what's going on in 2022. And you're seeing what's going to happen. Let's look. First, let's look at the beginning, Exodus chapter 1. I like to point this out to folks because a lot of people don't see it. I guess sometimes stuff is getting hidden in plain sight, right? But let's take a look. I'm going to start in chapter 1. We know about the one that says there arose a Pharaoh that knew not Joseph, right? Let's start there. Verse 8. Exodus chapter 1, beginning at verse 8. I'm going to read from verse 8 down to verse 12. This tells our story right now. Okay, watch. Now there arose up a new king over Egypt, which knew not Joseph. And he said unto his people, behold, the people of the children of Israel are more and mightier than we. Come on, let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply, and they come to pass that when there falleth out any war, they join also unto our enemies and fight against us, and so get them up out of the land. See, they were concerned with losing the labor. They were concerned with losing the source of their profits. They didn't want us to get up out of the land and join their enemies against them. Now you know how they're thinking now. The same thing. Let's continue. Therefore, they set over them taskmasters to afflict them with their burdens. And they built for Pharaoh treasure cities, Pithom and Ramses. So they built up the Egyptian economy, built up the most famous structures in Egypt. And they did it with low wages, with taskmasters over them. Let's continue. Verse 12. But the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew. And they were grieved because of the children of Israel. Think about this. Think about this. They brought about 500,000 of us to the United States mostly from West Africa, right? Over the course of the time, they went from 500,000, that's with them being whipped, with them being starved, with them being raped. They went from 500,000 to 5 million, right? There was the Civil War, there was the Reconstruction, and there's Jim Crow, and there's lynchings, and there's beatings, and then you got sharecropping, and we're in debt. Then we can't buy houses, we can't do nothing, and then they start with the drugs and the heroin and the crack and the redlining, and then they poison our meat, they poison our water. They're trying their best to reduce us, so that by the time Malcolm X come along, there was from 5 million to 22 million. Then they did 3 strikes law, and they trying to kill us like that. And then they open season, getting tough on crime, killing brothers in the streets. And we went from 22 million to 46 million. Now you know why they're so scared of us. They know what they did. They know what they're trying to do. And now we're 46 million and still growing. They've injected us with stuff to make us sterile. They've injected us with stuff to make us autistic. They've tried to stop us from producing, and we still went from 22 million to 46 million. And it says they were grieved because of the children of Israel. So now what do? Verse 15. It's telling us what's going on right now. Verse 15. And the king of Egypt spake to the Hebrew midwives, of which the name of the one was Shiphrah, and the name of the other Puah. And he said, when you do the office of a midwife to the Hebrew women, see them upon the stools. If it be a son, a Hebrew male, then ye shall kill him. But if it be a daughter, then she shall live. So the focus was on killing the Hebrew males. Are you listening? Let's continue. Verse 17. But the midwives feared the Most High and did not as the king of Egypt commanded them, but saved the men children alive. And the king of Egypt called for the midwives and said unto them, why have ye done this thing, and have saved the men children alive? And the midwives said unto Pharaoh, because the Hebrew women are not as the Egyptian women, for they are lively and are delivered ere the midwives come in unto them. They make excuse because they didn't want to kill their own people. He was looking for trying to make them kill their own people. Well, you got people today take that deal. You call them sellouts. They'll kill their own people. They'll go against their own people for fame, for money, for television shows. Notice verse 20. Therefore, the Most High dealt well with the midwives, and the people multiplied and waxed very mighty. And it came to pass, because the midwives feared the Most High, that he made them houses. And Pharaoh charged all his people. Now he's not even asking the Hebrews to help anymore. He charged the Egyptian people. What he charged? What he say to them? Every son that is born, he shall cast into the river, and every daughter he shall save alive. So now they had an open season on the Hebrew males. Does that sound familiar? They're trying to reduce the population, and they can't because the Most High is blessing them. And so now they're trying to kill the males. If you can kill the males, you can get them. They were not successful. Then came the time for deliverance. And then Moses came. And then the plague started falling on them. Right? The plague started falling on them. And what happened in the beginning, when the first 3 plagues, when Moses would do a plague, they would copy it. Notice in Exodus chapter 7, I'm going to read verse 9, 10, and 11. Watch. And Pharaoh shall speak unto you, saying, show a miracle for you. Then thou shalt say unto Aaron, take thy rod and cast it before Pharaoh, and it shall become a serpent. And Moses and Aaron went unto Pharaoh and did so, and as Yahweh commanded. And Aaron cast down his rod before Pharaoh and before his servants, and it became a serpent. Then Pharaoh also called the wise men and the sorcerers, now the magicians of Egypt. They also did in like manner with their enchantment. So as long as Pharaoh could cause his people to do it, he figured it was of man, so he didn't have to worry about it. And he did the same thing. Go a little further down, when the water would turn to blood, verse 21 and 22. And the fish that was in the river died, and the river stank, and the Egyptians could not drink of the water of the river, for there was blood throughout all the land of Egypt. And the magicians of Egypt did so with their enchantments, and Pharaoh's heart was hardened, neither did he hearken unto them, as Yahweh said. So as long as his magicians could do it, they weren't worried about it, because it was something they could what? Control. See, like now, you're seeing the judgments already start. The tornadoes, the fires, the hail, the floods. It's all hitting. They're saying that it's because of global warming, because their magicians are saying we can control it, but they can't control it. And what happened was, it came to pass after a while, when it got to the last 7 plagues. Look, in Exodus chapter 8, verse 22, the Most High told Moses, make a declaration. This is what it was. And I will sever in that day the land of Goshen, in which my people dwell, that no swarms of flies shall be there, to the end that thou mayest know I am Yahweh in the midst of the earth. And I will put division between my people and thy people. Tomorrow shall this sign be. So now it came after the first 3, that now there was going to be a difference. Now, before, the people of Yah were suffering with the Egyptians. So they figured, well, we can, not only could we duplicate it, but their people suffering too. So, hey, there's no big thing. We can control this. But after the first 3, when the last 7 plagues came, they could not control it. And the Most High had separated his people from the other people, so that his people weren't suffering like the Egyptians were suffering. That's coming. Okay, that's coming. Right now, the leadership of the earth is focused on money and profits and power and control. So as long as they have money and profits and power and control, they're not worried about any of these things that are happening. But the minute they realize they can't control it, they can't stop it, then you're going to see them really go crazy. You see, that's what happened in Colorado this week. The people were going crazy because that fire was not something they could control. They weren't expecting it to come to their affluent little town. And when it flowed through there, it was coming so fast, they had no time to react, just to try to get away from it so they wouldn't die. But brethren, we are soon going to see the same thing. It's going to be stuff that they cannot control. It's going to be stuff, and their biggest problem is not going to be that, you know what, you would think they'd be like, well, man, let's find out what's going on here. Let's repent. No. Their biggest concern is the lack of prophets. Look, Revelation chapter 18. Revelation chapter 18. Revelation 18 talks about the falling of the plagues, right? And notice in Revelation 18, the warning is given. Now, I want to just make sure you understand. Revelation 18 is a warning given before the plagues fall. Even though Revelation 18 comes after Revelation 15 and 16, 18 comes before these. Remember I told you before we studied prophecy, not because you see the chapter in order, that means the order they were given. Revelation 18 is a precursor. It's a warning given from the Hebrew prophets to tell their people to come out. You see, again, there's Hebrew prophets and there's prophet. Right now on the earth, everybody cares more about prophet. But the revelation was for Hebrews by a Hebrew prophet. So either you're listening to the prophet or you're going after prophets. Okay? So here in Revelation 18, let me start at verse 1. Revelation 18, beginning at verse 1. And after these things, I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory. Let me just explain quickly. In Revelation chapter 1, verse 1, we know that Father Yah gave a message about Messiah to Messiah. He's revealing something about Messiah to Messiah. It's called the revelation of Jesus Christ, right? So it's a revelation of the Messiah, Yahushua. Father gave it to him to reveal something. Messiah turned around and gave it to an angel and sent that angel to John. That's the order of prophecy. So when you see here in the Bible, it says an angel came and the earth was lightened with his glory. That's a message that came from the Father through Messiah, given to angels so that the angels could give it to the servants. Remember it said the revelation of Jesus Christ, which Yah gave unto him to show unto his servants things which must shortly come to pass. And it said he sent and he signified it by his angel unto his servant John. And what did John do? And John bare record of the word of Yah and of the testimony which he heard. That's the order. So here, angels are being shown with great power. Something's coming with great power. That's the power of the spirit of the latter rain, coming to the 144,000 to bear witness of a message, which is a warning message to the four corners of the earth to warn Yah's people about what's getting ready to come. Okay? The people of the world don't care because they're into prophets. But the people of Yah will be drawn to it because of the power of the prophets. Okay? Let's continue. Verse 2, Revelation 18, verse 2. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils, and the hole of every foul spirit, and the cage of every unclean and hateful bird. For all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. And the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her. And the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. Now, you ever think about this and say, things are so bad out here. When is it going to stop? Like, when is the last straw that breaks the proverbial camel's back, right? That's what I know I do. I think about it. I see these things like that young sister that got gunned down in a Burger King for a couple of dollars the other day, or a sister that was walking her dog in a deli in Brooklyn. Dude walks up and kills her and kills the dog and runs off. Didn't even take any money. And everybody in the neighborhood say they know the lady. She was always minding her business and walking her dog. And the dude just walked up and killed her for nothing. And you wonder, when is this going to stop? When is it going to end? Well, right here, what we just read in verse 3 is the last straw. There is going to be a last straw. The Most High is going to say, this is nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, kings committing fornication, merchants waxing rich through the abundance of her delicacies, and then the warning. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues. So the warning is going to come for Yah's chosen to come out from Babylon. Now, how do you come out from Babylon? This is the way. There's a 3-step process, which I'm not going to go into all the scriptures tonight because we're studying Revelation, but I'm going to tell you the 3-step process. There's 3 steps process to come out of Babylon. The first step of the process is to stop worshiping Babylonian gods. That's the first step. Stop worshiping Babylonian gods. There is no white Jesus. Allah cannot save you. Judaism cannot save you. The 3 religions, so-called Abrahamic, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, are not biblical. There is a God for the Hebrews, Yah. He is not any of these people's gods. The first step is to come out of the religious systems of this planet. That's the first step out of Babylon. So that you're worshiping Father Yah directly through Messiah, our righteousness. Okay? That's the first step. Second step is when you have done that, that second step is, now that you have stopped worshiping the foreign gods, the people, the leadership of Babylon is going to give you an ultimatum. Your ultimatum is going to be either you continue on this cult trip of you think you worshiping the God of the Bible and you think you're obedient to him, or you're not going to be able to buy or sell. You're not going to be able to buy or sell anything. We're going to take all your money, all your benefits, whether you earned it or not is irrelevant. We're going to take all your property, or you think you growing your own food, we're going to take that too. And anybody in your family or friends that's with you, we're going to take their stuff too. Then everybody's going to separate from you. And if you make a decision to go with the Most High, now you're free of Babylon's in terms of all of its money and stuff because you don't have any. And the Most High now, it's his responsibility to take care of you. You got to understand. Remember what he taught us in 1 Chronicles chapter 20. The battle is not yours. It's Yah's. If you believe that, by that time, he would have trained us. He's training us now. He would have trained us sufficiently so that we can step out on faith and trust that he's going to take care of us. That's step 2 of getting out of Babylon. Step 3 is when Messiah comes back. When Messiah returns and delivers us to the sea of glass, we're out of Babylon forever. Okay, 3-step process. He returned and he will change our bodies into immortal bodies, and we will be on the sea of glass with the 144,000 and all the prophets, with the Father and with Messiah and Moses. Now we're gone, Babylon gone now. 3-step process. So here, this warning is the first step, because the object now is worship. Father deserves our worship. He doesn't want our worship being split between him and any other God. So the first thing is worship. The other stuff takes care of itself after the worship. But he wants us to worship him and worship him alone. No other gods. I am Yahweh thy most high, which brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. That's this here. The other steps come after that. Okay, notice what it says. Okay, verse 4. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues. For her sins have reached unto heaven, and Yah hath remembered her iniquities. Now, question. Was Moses sent from Yah to Egypt to deliver Egyptians from Egypt? I know that sounds silly, right? But I'm asking the question for a reason. It's a rhetorical question. Was Moses called by the Most High to go down to Egypt and tell Pharaoh to let his people go so that he can deliver Egyptians from Egypt? No. Moses was told to go get the children of Israel out of Egypt. But when the children of Israel were being delivered, did any Egyptians come with them? Was there any Egyptians that saw all of that was going on and said, man, this is the true God, I'm going with him? Yes, there was. So now, when this message comes, the message is to deliver the children of Israel. But there will be others, Gentiles, that say, man, this is the true God. And they will come out with us. As we saw in Egypt, it wasn't the majority, but there was mixed multitude. You're going to see that again. The message is for the Hebrews. And the Hebrews, listen, brethren and sisters, I know this is going to sound strange to you, but we come from the ancestors of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And those of us, you don't have to go looking for your DNA. You will know the call because it's from the same call your ancestors received. And you're going to know the call in your spirit. So when the call comes, it's going to be like natural, like a fish to water. You're going to know they're calling you. Your ancestors' blood is in your veins. And you're going to be able to know. And some of us will answer the call. But the power of that call and of that spirit is going to cause some of the Gentiles to say, oh man, wait, I'm going with them. And so he says, come out of her, my people, that you be not partakers of her sins, and you receive not of her plagues. See, so it's a call to come out of Babylon prior to the plagues falling. So that's the warning. Come out of her, that you don't be partakers of her sins, and you receive not of her plagues. Because if you're involved with these man-made religions and these man-made religious systems, you're going to receive what they're getting. And they're getting plagues. Because they're worshiping a different God. And that's the warning. Come out of her, that you don't partake in her sins, and you don't receive her plagues. Okay? It's before the plagues fall. Now, let's continue. Verse 5. For her sins have reached unto heaven, and Yah hath remembered her iniquities. Reward her even as she rewarded you, and double unto her, according to her works, in the cup which she hath filled, fill to her double. All of the hardship, all of the exploitation that we have suffered since we were kicked out of the land, it's going to be double back on those that gave it to us. He that leadeth into captivity will go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and faith of the saints. There are going to be some of them that's going to go into captivity and be our servants. There are going to be some of them that's going to be killed. And those of y'all in the FBI, CIA, whatever, looking at me now, you ain't got to worry about me. I'm not going to kill you. My God is, though. I trust in him. And you can make fun. Yes, he's coming out of the sky to get us. Yes, he is. I know it sounds crazy, but Noah said he was building a boat for a flood to come, and they thought he was crazy too, didn't they? Until it happened. Always sounds crazy until it happens. Verse 7. Watch. How much she hath glorified herself and lived deliciously. So much torment and sorrow give her. For she saith in her heart, I sit a queen, and am no widow, and shall see no sorrow. That's how they feel. Top of the world. The religious powers control everything. Top of the world. They don't pay no taxes or nothing. And they getting paid, and they got control. Okay? And they feel like they're blessed of the Lord because they got so much property and money, not realizing the property and money of this world going to all burn up. Everything's going to be burnt, y'all. Every dollar, every building, every house, every car is going to be burnt. And what's good is it then? It's going to melt, be destroyed. What good is it then? And they think we're blessed of the Lord. Yeah, right. You're going to see how blessed you are. Let's continue. Verse 8. Therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death and mourning and famine. She shall be utterly burned with fire. For strong is the Most High Yahweh who judges her. One day equals what? 1 year. 1 year of plagues. And the kings of the earth. Now watch verse 9. And the kings of the earth who have committed fornication and lived deliciously with her shall bewail her and lament for her when they see the smoke of her burning. Why? Why are they wailing and lamenting? Standing afar off for fear of her torment, saying, Alas, alas, that great city Babylon, that mighty city, for in 1 hour is thy judgment come, and the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her. Why are they weeping and mourning? Why? For no man buyeth their merchandise anymore. See, it's only about profits for them. They're not concerned with the end of the world. They're concerned how could they profit off of it. Did you hear what I just said? They're not concerned with the end of the world. Their concern is how do they profit off of it. They're not concerned with misery and suffering. They're concerned with how do we profit off the misery and suffering. You must remember, brethren, everything is about how can we profit. And the people of Yah, everything is about what is the prophets telling us. Everything. Those two things. One side is saying we're listening for the prophets. The other side say, how can we profit? How can we profit off this global warming? How can we profit off of the thing that just destroyed Kentucky, off the thing that just destroyed that town? And you know how they profit off it, don't you? Let me just explain. How do they profit off a major fire like that? You want to know? How do they do that? Well, let me ask you. You think them rich people houses is going to be burnt forever? Like, it ain't like the hood. When we burn up something in the hood, they don't come and fix it. They just board it up, right? But not in the rich people places. That place is going to be built like it never happened. Well, how does that happen? They got to have construction. Construction needs contracts. Contracts come from FEMA and from the government. Where they get that money? From the taxpayers. There's profit in all of it. Just like y'all heard by now, everybody knows about the prison industrial complex, right? Y'all heard of that, right? Just in case you didn't, let me just the prison industrial complex. How does that work? Well, prisoners live in a prison. While they're there, they're getting paid. They're getting fed 3 times a day. They're being placed in a cell. They get a little orange suit to wear, right? And they have facilities and they have guards. Somebody has to pay the guards. Somebody has to build the facilities. Somebody has to maintain the facilities. That takes money. Well, where does the money come from? The taxpayers. And who controls it? The government. So they got the purse strings. Well, private people build them prisons and hire them workers and feed them prisoners and make the food. So the people that are bidding on the contracts to do all that get that money from the government. The government decides who's going to get that contract. So now you're in some state and you got a senator and you got Congress people. And you say to them, I could really help your campaign a little bit if you help me get this contract. Or even more, the senator or the congressman might say, I got my cousin who has a friend that's in the construction. They can somehow win the bidding on this $100 million facility. And not only that, they can say, well, look, man, to house these brothers, it costs at least 50 G's a head when they know they're only paying 15. See what I'm saying? And then you get the judges involved. So the judges get a little kickback for sending brothers to the facility that's going to get all that money. They caught a dude in Pennsylvania already. I'm not making this up. They caught a guy in Pennsylvania that was doing it. The judge was sending people to jail left and right. And he's like, why is this guy sending everybody for these long sentences for minor crime? He was getting money, getting kickbacks from the prison system. They are concerned with profit. There was in 1980s. I'm not telling you nothing. I'm not making this no conspiracy theory. This is documented. 1980s, the U.S. government wanted money to support the Contras in Central America. There were people in the Congress that didn't want them to get the money, so they blocked it. So what they do, they made a deal under the table with people in the Middle East to get them poppy seeds, to bring them to the Central America, to turn it into cocaine. They took it a step further, got their scientists to combine the cocaine with some baking powder, baking soda, and some other stuff to make it way more powerful and cheap. Then they brought it to the city, South Central LA. They brought it to Chicago. They brought it to every major city in them red line areas. Red line areas is where we live. And they fronted them the money, and the brothers were selling that stuff and getting our kids hooked on this stuff and getting over millions a day, kicking that money back. There was so much of it. And it was coming out of a place, Arkansas, too. Just so happened there was a governor at that time in Arkansas named Bill Clinton. They were making so much money. You see what happens when you start making money like that, right? You got to put it somewhere. You can't just put it in a bank because then somebody will know something's going on. Where's this money come from, all this money, right? Millions of dollars every day. What are you going to do with it? So what people do, I'm telling you how they make money on our misery, right? And I'm just giving you a little tip of the iceberg, just a couple of grains. So look, you got to do something with the money. You can't just put it, so that, they have brothers stuffing it in attics, putting it in walls. But when you making big money, like the people behind it, the big wigs, the people in power, the spiritual wickedness in high places, when they making billions off of it, they can't just put it in the bank. So what do? They do what they call launder it. They got to clean it. Well, how do you clean it? One of the ways of cleaning it is you purchase things for cash or you invest in a business. And there was this business in Arkansas started by this guy named Sam Walton. It was a store that he started there in Arkansas, and he called it Walmart. And Walmart went from a little store in Arkansas to a multi-billion-dollar corporation. And that's what they used. And he did that because they were funneling that money through his business. And they were using other businesses too. So much for lifting yourself up by the bootstraps. I'm not telling you nothing that's made up. All documented. Okay? And so that's just a little ways. And meantime, you got girls 12, 13, 14 committing sexual acts for crack. And they making them profits. Then the dudes on the corner selling it, they said like around 1990, that's when the government started arresting people. They wasn't even arresting people in the 80s for it. But in the 90s, they said, why? Because they had the money they needed to go to the Central America. Now they didn't need that anymore. They turned it into 3 strikes law. Thank you, Mr. Clinton and Mrs. Clinton, telling all of our people, all our young boys are predators, super predators, she said. And you're giving brothers life for selling drugs on the street corner, whereas the guy's giving it from the planes that's making the big money. You ain't never seen them. That's just one way. There's 100 other ways. So that every misery can bring profit. But what we're saying is we're listening to the prophets. And they tell us and show us all things. Okay? They tell us and show us all things. What you think? They just arrested this dude and then they say he killed himself in jail, Jeffrey Epstein, right? And then his Maxwell, the woman that was his sidekick, they call these people socialites. Nobody ever tells you where they get their money from. Like, did they inherit it or what? Did they start a business? How did they get all these hundreds of millions of dollars and islands that they own to bring little kids there? And you think it's just them? Those are the only two monsters in the whole world? People getting snatched every day off the streets. That's how they profit off misery. Y'all better get this video because they're going to knock this one down. I'm going to tell you right now. They're going to knock this one down, so get it while you can. And I'm just giving you the tip, the very tip of the iceberg. Very tip. Okay, the very tip. They launder money through music. You know, they'll get these artists, and these artists are selling. They'll tell you how many Grammys they're getting, and you don't know that stuff is being funneled. That money is being funneled. They got to clean it. How do you think? Or some corporation you never heard of all of a sudden worth $1 billion and buys another company. And I'm like, because I was in business, I've never heard of this company. And it's worth $10 billion, and they buying another company for $2 billion. How they doing that? Profit. Everything is about profit. Whenever you see anything, brethren, always ask yourself, how are they profiting from it? Because that's what it's all about. The devil gets allegiance by giving people the power to think they're gods. And they think they're gods when they have money and power. That's how the game works. I was watching a movie with my wife the other day, and there was this woman, Caucasian lady, like a million women you might see in the street, or you go to the side, to the supermarket. And I saw this woman, they said, her last couple films grossed over $1 billion. I'm like, who is this chick? She ain't that great at nothing. But you make that deal with Asatan and you get profits. You make a deal from the Most High and he'll cause you to understand the prophets and prepare you by the prophets. Matter of fact, let's look at this. I put it in the thumbnail, but look at it. Hosea chapter. Let's see. Oh goodness, let me find it in here. Hold on. I'm sorry. Hold on. I got to find this now. Hold on, Babalu. I got to find it. Got to find this one. Hosea 12:13. I thought it was in the neighborhood. Okay, Hosea 12:13. It says in Hosea 12, chapter 12, verse 13, and by a prophet Yahweh brought Israel out of Egypt, and by a prophet he was preserved. By a prophet Yah brought Israel out of Egypt, and by a prophet he was preserved. The Most High says, surely Yahweh will do nothing. That's Amos chapter 3, verse 7. Surely he will do nothing, but he revealeth his secrets unto his servants, the prophets. And the only prophets in the Bible are Hebrew Israelite prophets. There's no Gentile prophets in the Bible, just Hebrew Israelite prophets. That has not changed. And today, the true Hebrew Israelites, nobody's going to listen to them because they're being exploited for profit. Nobody's going to listen to us except the ones who the call is made for. Come out of her, my people, that you be not partakers of her sins, and that you receive not of her plagues. Soon, Very soon, the next couple of years, it's going to be the final straw. Soon, the latter rain power going to fall on the Hebrews and those that recognize who the Hebrews are. And then the final call is going to be made. Very soon, prophets will mean nothing because those weeping and wailing merchants won't be making them anymore. They should enjoy while they can. That's what we say. Go and enjoy it now. Exploit who you will. You ain't got much longer. You don't have much longer. It's coming to an end. And the prophets are showing us that it's coming to an end. That we should be seeking Father Yah for his glory and being prepared by his spirit. And to those that are into prophets, that's ridiculous. That's fine. That's why you have sheep and you have goats. That's why you have wheat and you have tares. Okay? I pray to the Most High that you all and myself would listen to the prophets and not be concerned about making prophets. Praise the Most High Yahweh. Shalom.